Good afternoon or evening, whenever this is being played for you. Um, this is the New Year's message from the Institute of Toltec Shamanic Arts, or ITSA as we sometimes refer to it. I am Golden Eagle. I am the director of ITSA. I am tasked with spreading the Toltec knowledge and wisdom in this time and place. The message I have here at the start of 2019 is aimed first at my students who are formal students in the Toltec shamanic work, second at those who are considering it, and some of you know whom you are, and third at anyone who is interested in the Toltec way of living and thinking and the Toltec way of consciousness, and endeavoring to make this world a better place so that humanity has an opportunity to fulfill its true potential. I refer to this as the humanity organism, which is the sum total of humanity that is comprised of the consciousness field of everyone alive on the planet today, coupled with all our ancestors who have gone this way before. So I'm going to start this New Year's message by giving you a certain new take on point of view and understanding of what's going on in the world today. Here in the city of Mount Shasta, we live just outside the city of Mount Shasta. The downtown region, depending on which road you take, is about 3 miles plus or minus. And it takes between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on how many deer or bear step out in front of you on your way to town. And I've had all of that occur in the last week here, deer and bear and squirrels and skunks and all manner of creatures. No Sasquatch this week. Supposedly, right here in the Mount Shasta area, especially slightly to the west in the Scott River Valley, it's supposedly known as Bigfoot Central or Sasquatch Central, and has a higher density of Sasquatch sightings per unit time per square mile than anywhere in the United States. Haven't seen any this week. But in Mount Shasta, we have a city park. Like many, many cities, towns, villages in the country, we have city parks. We actually have a couple here in town. And the official Mount Shasta City Park contains a large freshwater spring that bursts out of the ground. It's called Big Springs. Not to be confused with a town about 25 miles north of here called Big Springs, because they have a big spring that comes gushing out of the ground. Nobody ever said the early settlers here were over-endowed with creativity for giving place names to locations. Big Springs in Mount Shasta City Park is the headwaters, i.e. the source of the Sacramento River. Anyone who's traveled in Northern California, anywhere from the San Francisco Bay Area all the way north through the Central Valley, all the way up to here, you can't help but crossing the Sacramento River many times. We've lost track. Every time I try to count, I lose track, because there's the little side estuaries and the sloughs, and is that really one bridge or two? So how many river crossings we have is firmly up in the air. It's a huge river, massive quantities of water from the natural springs and the snow melt off here in the southern Cascade Mountains, the Trinity Alps, the Sierra Nevadas, as well as what falls on the plains in the north Central Valley. Central Valley in California is this long valley about 400 to 500 miles long from north end near Redding to the south end near pass over the Santa Clara Mountains known as the Grapevine. And the North Central Valley is dominated by the Sacramento River. The South Central Valley is dominated by the San Joaquin River. And it's a rich farming country, some of the richest, most fertile farming soils in the U.S. It's been estimated that sometimes up to 1/3 of the food for the entire country comes out of the California Central Valley. So this river is a major thing. It's a big deal. And here in Mount Shasta City Park, they have a spring, as I said, called Big Springs. And there's a sign right there at the headwater spring, as it's called, that that this is, in fact, the source of the Sacramento River. And what I have to say about that today is that's a great piece of propaganda. What, you say? Are you implying that the headwater spring at the South Mount Shasta City Park is not the source of the Sacramento River? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you look at the map, you'll see City Park, the headwater springs, Big Spring, and a little stream coming out of it called Big Springs Creek. And it's good size. And it merges with another creek called Wagon Creek, and then another creek runs into Lake Siskiyou, just to the west of town, which is a man-made lake behind Box Canyon Dam, and that's part of the water that flows into Lake Siskiyou, a small part. The biggest part at the western end of the lake, kind of the slightly northwestern end of the lake, there's a much, much larger stream. 10 times the volume coming out of Big Springs, at least 10 times. And it runs well up to the west into the Trinity Alps. And when you look at the map, like go to Google Maps, zoom in on Mount Shasta and find Lake Siskiyou and move it around, and you'll see, oh, look at this. Coming out of the west side of Siskiyou Lake is the Sacramento River. Not Big Springs Creek, but Sacramento River. And it goes up a couple miles and it splits into the North Fork of the Sacramento River and the South Fork of the Sacramento River. And then it goes many, many, many more miles. The South Fork is a little larger at that point. And it has its source in a variety of springs and runoff from the Trinity Alps, the coastal range. The Central Valley has the Sierras and Cascades on one side, and the Coast Range on the other, and in between is the Central Valley. And so it's these coastal mountains, somewhere over there, a good 10 plus miles from Mount Shasta, is the true source, actually sources of the Sacramento River. But when you're trying to create some tourist hoopla, what are you going to say? Don't come to our town, go to somebody else's town 10 miles away, and go out there into the forest where you can get eaten by wolves and bears and lions. And that's the source. Go spend your money there. Well, there's nothing there to spend. So it was a beautiful piece of advertising, marketing hoopla, to put up a big sign that says, this is the source of the Sacramento River, and a couple other springs somewhere else. And people travel for miles to come drink and out of the Big Springs water. It's very good water, among the purest in the planet. They've done isotope analysis to confirm that the water running out of Big Springs is water that fell as snow on Mount Shasta 50 years ago. It takes 50 years to percolate through volcanic soils full of volcanic layers and can eventually come gushing out of Big Springs at the headwaters, the so-called headwater springs. If you don't do the research, you won't learn that. The headwater spring really is not the headwaters of the Sacramento River in Mount Shasta City Park. A minor tributary comes gushing out there, minor tributary of the Sacramento River. That's true. But it's not the one and only true source of water for the Sacramento River. It's not the farthest upstream you can go. And why am I telling you this on a New Year's message for a school of shamanic arts that is intended to help you change your consciousness and change the world in 2019? Because there's a lot going on in the world that isn't what it seems to be. You can't spend 5 minutes on the internet, whether you're on Facebook or another news station, without seeing 90% propaganda. And if not more, but at least 90% of what you're seeing out there is propaganda. It's not what it seems to be. It's no different than watching a play and identifying with the actors who are playing the part. So you're identifying with the characters, whether it's Shakespeare or something else, whether it's a movie. And it's distracting. It's intended to distract. So the Toltec consciousness work is intended to be exactly what it says. It's to change the world. Now, in the world of engineering and rocket science, we have what we describe as a launch window. If you're in orbit around the Earth and you want to go to the moon or to Mars or somewhere else, we can compute exactly how much force you need, how much thrust, how much fuel that needs, exactly how long it takes to get there. But in order for the planets and the moon to align properly with your orbit around the Earth, there's only a very narrow gap of time where you can fire your rocket and actually arrive at the moon. You fire your rocket a little too soon, you get there before the moon has reached the right point in the orbit, and what you find is you missed, and you go off into deep space and you die because you're going to run out of oxygen. The lunar flights actually relied on the gravitational pull of them from the moon to stop their spaceship. No moon there, you don't stop, you keep going. Or you could stop, but then you'd have no way to get back because you'd use all your fuel trying to stop. If you launch too late, same thing. The moon's already gone by and you go zipping off into space and then you die. So there's a gap in some of those moon flights. It might only be an hour a day for a few days a month that everything lines up correctly. The moon, your landing spot on the moon has to be lit, not during the 2 weeks of darkness that every place there on the moon receives. And it has to be the right distance from the Earth, so not every orbit of the moon around the Earth will work. So there's some calculation involved. There's a certain level of rigor and discipline it takes. And if you want to be ready for that 1 hour launch window 3 days a month, you better have your ducks in a row, your proverbial ducks lined up ahead of time. You have to have built your rocket. You have to know that it works properly. It's been tested, and the parts are reliable because you've built 1,000 parts and you've tested them all to know exactly what the average lifespan is, how many times you can use them before they fail due to heat or current or mechanical stress, whatever it is. And you know that you've tested the one that's going in there to know that it doesn't have what's called infant mortality. It isn't going to break first time you use it, but it's not so far as to wear it out. You get all that set up and you've got everything loaded, all your fuel, all your oxygen, all your tools that you need when you get there, and you've got this tight little window that if you miss that, you wait a month, or if you're going to one of the other planets, you might have to wait 2 years or more for everything to come around and line up again. So it's this concept of you have to be, in the engineering world, this is called the rocket scientist's mantra. You have to be right. You have to know that you're right. And this one's key. You have to know why you're right. You can't be a guess. You got to know exactly why. And you have to know all of that right now. That's the rocket scientist mantra. That's what everybody has to do if you don't want to blow things up on the launch pad and kill your friends. That would be a bad day. I don't recommend it. And this is important for the consciousness work because there's several things that are lining up right now about the future of humanity and the future of this planet and where our solar system is in our Milky Way galaxy. We are at the end of what the Toltecs called the Gatum, or the Great Age, on the calendar that was borrowed by the Mayans. And this calendar says that every 26,000 years, there's a shift. And it's based in part on the quality of space we're passing through changing. Some have described this as a photon belt. And it takes about 2,000 years to move through this photon belt. And we've entered it, you know, it's a gradual process, but we are now, in 2018, now pretty much fully into this 2,000-year period of the photon belt. And great change is going to happen. Great physical upheaval on the Earth, great political and consciousness upheaval and changes, and hopefully growth for the better. It doesn't always happen that way, but we're working hard to make sure it does this time. That's really what the Toltec consciousness work is all about. So that's thing one of what makes this unique time, this time so unique, is the Gatum, the Great Age, is coming to an end. Humanity, the humanity organism, is at a crucial phase of development. Just like children progress from infanthood into adulthood, and there's these key little steps that occur quickly in terms of neurological development, physical development. The growth plates have to close. When the physical growth is done, organs have to mature. Before puberty is complete, you can try all you want, and young humans are incapable of reproducing, so don't try. Those organs aren't done. The immune system hits its development somewhere around age 3 to 5. We know, for instance, that any vaccination given to a child before a minimum of 1 year of age is guaranteed not to work. At least it doesn't work in terms of promoting immunity, because the organs involved in developing that immunity aren't done growing yet. And it's no different than the puberty example and the ability to reproduce. If your thymus isn't developed and all your other organs involved in producing specific blood-based immunity, if they're not developed, they can't mount it. And so all those vaccinations do is they're toxins that disrupt immune systems, they disrupt nervous systems, and they cause a lot of harm, a great deal of harm, as an example. So these earth changes, the humanity organism is going through a developmental phase. The planetary system, the solar system, is going through a developmental phase. And the earth itself, which is a conscious living being, is going through a developmental phase. And all this means that this is a crucial time. I can tell you that not everyone, not every soul or essence that was lined up and wanted to come to Earth right now was allowed to come. As many people as we have here, there's not enough room for everybody that really wanted to be here and go through this time of transformation. There was a line. And if you're watching this from the physical Earth plane, you were selected. You made the cut. And what you made the cut for is to come here and do your work, your true will. And if you miss this window of opportunity for humanity as a whole and for you in person, you as an individual, there's no second chance. Humanity can either make a quantum leap forward or it will make a quantum leap backwards, but stagnation is not an option at this point in time. So do your work. So if you're one of my students, in the last month, you've had an opportunity to meet my two primary teachers in the shamanic world. One is my teacher and benefactor in the Toltec lineage, Coyote the Blind. The other is another teacher I'm very fortunate to know called E.J. Gold. And you've been exposed to the work of both of them through the writings that I've required of you to read, and in person, many of you. So they say the same things I do in slightly different ways, and I expose you to my higher level teachers in the attempt to get through to you the urgency of the timing right now. They all have said in their own way the same thing I do, is you're here for one purpose, which we call your true will, your true purpose. And accomplishing that is the only reason you are here. Anything else you do in life has to be done, if you're going to be successful, with an eye to accomplishing your true will. I sometimes refer to this as the interesting versus important comparison. Something might seem very fun, very interesting, and it may have absolutely nothing to do with serving your true will. In which case, don't do it. It not only has to be interesting, it also has to be important. And my only definition of important is it's another piece of the puzzle of accomplishing your true will. That's really what it is. So there's a narrow window of opportunity for you to wake up. Part of the mission of this school is to wake up those who are able. In some of my online writings, I've jokingly referred to this as the, what did I say exactly? As the coalition to continue attempting to wake up those who are able. And that's really what it is, because within the masses of humanity out there, not everyone is capable of waking up as a first step, and B, accomplishing their mission as a second step. There's also forces that are endeavoring to make sure you don't wake up, that they don't wake up, and that they don't accomplish their mission, because they have a vested interest in keeping humanity from developing. If humanity develops and wakes up, then the world as we know it will change instantly, almost overnight, and the money system will be different, the energy system, the transportation systems, the health care systems, the old aeonic limiting religions, the dogmatic religions that don't want you asking questions. They don't want you going direct, as the terminology I like and often use, because if you learn the shamanic skills of going direct, talking to God directly, you're a lot less susceptible to the BS being spread by dogmatic religions, by dogmatic governments, by dogmatic corporations, and by anyone else who falls into the category of ignorant, be they deliberately and maliciously so, or be they inadvertently just repeating the dogmas as they were taught it blindly without ever learning to think for themselves. And that's really the proposition we have in the great work, is wake up those who can and move on, because we will not be successful at waking up everyone. And the work that we do in the Toltec shamanic world of consciousness is not for everyone. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This isn't the path for everyone. There are good, legitimate paths out there. And if you want to talk about that, contact me. There are legitimate paths that aren't as hard as this is. This is difficult. And if you've been called to it, On one hand, you have my condolences, and on the other hand, you have my congratulations, because you're in a very elite group, a small group of people. And we're working for the benefit of humanity and the planet. The way we do all this, keeping in mind that you can't buy into the appearances being spread in the mainstream media and on the internet. You have to see behind the curtain. So we use techniques to teach you to see behind the curtain. We teach techniques for you to wake up, go direct, and especially to contact your personal holy guardian angel so that you learn exactly what you came here to do and exactly how to do it and gain the skills and knowledge to accomplish all that. That's the work. Humanity as a whole has a big picture. We as individuals have a very crucial piece of that, if you liken that to a jigsaw puzzle, and nobody else has the piece that we alone came here to do. And we need, in order for the humanity as a whole to see the picture and get it, we need a certain critical mass of the pieces filled in before people go, I get it, I see what that picture is. And then their consciousness can fill in the blanks. And so, yeah, a couple people here or there miss out and miss the boat. We can still succeed. But we're not close enough yet as humanity. This is the great work. And you, as EJ says, you only have so many good working hours in a lifetime. This isn't infinite for this human biological machine. We are an avatar, an eternal essence that has occupied this biological machine and in order to accomplish this work of service for humanity and for the divine, whether you call that God or the universe or whomever. You know, fill in the blank for your favorite spiritual system of philosophical thought or religious practice, and it all means the same thing. So this human biological machine's lifetime is one of the windows of opportunity that we all have to deal with. So if you've woken up enough to know that you're here on a mission and you're having difficulty forcing yourself to follow through, to do what you know what you're supposed to do, think, oh, I can do that later. Oh, I can do that later. I hope you're right. I hope you have enough time to do that. If you're 18, maybe you do have another 50 years. If you're 60 or older, maybe you don't. In theory, the human biological machines are designed to operate on average between 120 to 140 years in perfect health. And they can go longer. There's documented cases of at least 256 years in good, perfect health with a sound mind and a sound body. That doesn't mean that the guy who lived to be 256 that we have documented proof of was able to run as fast at 250 as he did at 150 or 100 or 50. But he was mobile, he was walking, he was teaching, he was doing his work. Towards that end, one of the classes that I offer through this institute is called The Proper Care and Feeding of Your Human Biological Machine. And this is an example of a missed window of opportunity. I offered this class to the school almost 2 months ago, back at the beginning of November. So yeah, 2 months ago. And there was a window of opportunity to get that set up and offered, and the burden of that was placed on the students of the school, and it did not happen. The next window of opportunity, the earliest that it might happen now, will be somewhere around the end of February or the beginning of March. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to advertise a class and get everything set up and organized and coordinated and planned and flyers made, etc. And in the next month, we have several other activities coming along. So realistically, we're probably talking for that particular class, we're talking March. So if you who are students of the school truly have an interest in that class to do the most you can to care for your biological machine and extend your work window, then come to me and I'll explain again the process of getting that set up and what needs to happen, and we can get it set up and make it happen. And this one's on you guys. Now, in terms of everything that we offer in this broad arena of Toltec wisdom, we teach you how to meditate. We teach you to attain what we call the place of power, to use attention. There's a variety of skills that go along with that. We teach exercise. I can teach Qigong. We can teach art, chess. We use the American Book of the Dead to learn how to, part of the training for traveling in the macro dimensions. This formula that we use here in this Toltec lineage is a time-tested formula. And by time-tested, I mean it goes back many, many tens of thousands of years. This is the same basic formula that has been used in esoteric schools throughout recorded human history. We can go read the hieroglyphics carved on walls in Egypt and other places, and we say, oh, yeah, I see what they were doing. Sounds a lot like our school. It's a lot like EJ's school and Coyote's school and mine, and if you follow the formula, it will work. And the most important piece of the formula is the drive that comes from within you. I can offer these teachings. I have a whole list here that I'm not going to bother to read of things that I can teach that are all peripheral to you mastering the skills you need to go direct, contact your holy guardian angel, and then do your true will. Whether it's ABD, whether it's talking about the tree of life, or another famous Toltec work area called the dreaming, learning to master the skills associated with dreaming, stalking, and warrioring. That's all part of the equation. You all had homework over a month ago. By the end of the year, which, oh, by the way, that's today, your homework is due, to choose an area of human life that you view as problematic, that means enough to you that you will passionately work on it for years. And as Buckminster Fuller cautions us, we don't fix a problem by trying to change the existing model. We fix problems by coming up with a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Horse and buggy. You can make faster and faster horses, but the biological machine of the horses can only go so fast. You can make lighter and stronger wagons or carriages and better wheel bearings, smoother, better roads, but there's an upper limit to how fast you can go in a horse-drawn carriage. We needed a better model in order to go faster. The next model up was the steam engine, drawing those what were formerly horse-drawn carriages and trolley cars. And then we developed the internal combustion engine, which gave us a lot more flexibility. We didn't have to be only where the rails ran. And then came the airplane. And in each case, there was nothing inherently wrong with a horse-drawn carriage, but a steam engine presented itself for a variety of reasons, and somebody put two and two together and came up with a better way. Same with the automobile, same with the airplane. Same with the jet versus a propeller-driven airplane. It was just a better way. And you don't produce a jet engine or a rocket engine by trying to make your propeller spin faster. You have to completely throw that model out and replace it with something new. So I'm giving you a 1-week reprieve on your homework, and you owe me a 1-page write-up 1 week from today. That will be next Monday, which I believe is January 7th, question mark. Yeah, it should be the 7th. Anyway, next Monday, a week from today. What it's going to be. This is the dreaming stage. Conjure up something. You don't have to have the answer of how you're going to have a new model yet, unless you already do. It's just, here's the problem, and I'm going to find a way to develop a better model. And then, to the best of your ability, you're going to come up with a plan over the next 3 months of, here's kind of what the new model looks like. So you've done the dreaming phase, now comes the stalking phase, and then after 3 months are up, it's time to take action. It's time to turn on your warrior skills. So my main message, the take-home message as we start the new year is, time is of the essence. You don't have to panic and rush, but you definitely do not want to dawdle. You can't. You're out of time. Whether it's this lifetime or humanity's lifetime or the changes in the world or the strange phenomenon we have with hot-headed dictators on every corner of the globe with their finger on the little red button to start nuclear holocaust. I mean, fill in the blank. You've got a dozen countries out there with nuclear power, none of them nuclear weapons, and none of them like each other, and they're all seemingly being run these days by madmen who would just as soon blow everybody up as to work together and get along. And there's an awful lot of potential that we as humans have. And my issue, my area of human concern that I'm going to be working on, and I haven't figured out how to do all this yet, but my main issue is spreading the word on what's possible right now in terms of knowledge and technology and consciousness and wisdom that we don't have to invent. We could have a radically different world right now over what's been discovered and reinvented over the last 200 years. And some of it is a reinventing from many thousands of years ago, because when we talk about aircraft and nuclear warfare in the Bhagavad Gita from tens of thousands of years ago, we really haven't invented anything new. That's my issue, is finding more ways, better ways to convince as many people as possible that there are alternatives right now. No more research and development required. It's just stop making the choices to not use better solutions and get that message out. So that's mine. I've been working on that for years, and the time has come to kick it up a notch or 3 and get that message out. And that's my version of this work that our Toltec school is engaging in. So if you're in the school, you owe me a paper in a week. If you're not, we'd love to have the help. Most Mondays after today, this is just a pre-recorded one. We have these live discussions called the Toltec Discussions with Golden Eagle. And most Mondays at 7 p.m. There are other opportunities, courses, workshops, etc. Our website is going to be updated over the course of this month. We have a couple other major events this month, so we'll be filling this in our spare time. And we'll get the offerings up. It'll be a list of possibilities, and which possibilities come to fruition depends on the interest of our current students and the interest of our potential students who are interested and want to learn more. So, time is of the essence. You have a window of opportunity to do your will, to do your work, and all I can do is show you the door. You have to open it and walk through and then do your work. I can't do it for you. Think of me like the old wagon train movies where people were moving west and they had faced flooded rivers and prairie fires or avalanches or whatever the danger was. That was what life moving west was. You want to get to the promised land, you've got to learn to overcome all those dangers. I can show you the trail, but I sure as heck can't carry you to Oregon. You got to carry yourself. And if you don't want to, I can't make you want to. All I can do is show you how to do it if you choose, and if you choose not, just know that you're going to get left behind and there will be other lifetimes after this one. And that's up to you. That's your choice. So as I like to say and conclude all my blogs and all my teachings with, do good, avoid evil. And if you can't avoid evil, learn to kick its ass. Happy New Year, everyone.